I don't bow to committees. I don't pay for pools I'll never swim in. And I damn sure don't let strangers write rules for land I bought with cash and scars. Maybe that's why Gordon Hale, the slick-smiled emperor of a paper kingdom, set his sights on me. First, it was letters, real formal, dressed up like invitations and perfumed with community, but printed in fine print and threats. Then, right when I was starting to think it'd all blow over, the cameras on my property just died. Poof. Locks sliced like butter, and red paint screaming across my wall. Play by the rules. Their rules. Cops came, shrugged like waiters at a greasy spoon, handed me the same suggestion everyone else had. You ever thought of joining the HOA? Like that's supposed to be protection. They figured I'd fold. But let me tell you, I didn't build Carter systems by folding. That night, I turned on every light I owned and watched who flinched. Because when private armies hide behind city logos and fake inspections, you don't negotiate. You document, escalate, and drag the truth into the daylight. Before I get lost in the weeds, drop a comment with where you're watching from, your local time, and buckle up, because this ride goes off-road real quick. My story starts in the gray dawn at Cedar Bluff Industrial Park, when the hum of my security gates was the only sound greeting me. And for years, that quiet was my reward for doing things my way. Built Carter systems from nothing, smart locks, biometric scanners, security for folks with more money than sense. My headquarters was a squat steel fortress on 10 acres at the county's edge, not pretty, but mine, 15-foot fences, floodlights that could cook a steak, cameras I wired myself. The message was clear, this land answers to me. But every fortress attracts a siege. And the battering ram was the Lake View Property Association, a suburban HOA that metastasized like crabgrass, rules so absurd you needed a permit to sneeze. Gordon Hale, their president, loved wrapping tyranny in honey. First handshake. I pegged him. A handshake you just know is practiced in the mirror, dry and tight, like he's trying to sell you a used car. The first letter that landed in my mailbox, heavy stock, embossed seal, started with, "Dear Mr. Carter, we strongly encourage you to join," and ended with, "To prevent potential misunderstandings. Corporate for play along, or else." Straight to the shredder. They didn't stop. Letters kept coming, friendlier each month until they weren't. Neighbors whispered that Hale's playbooks started with sugar, ended with city code violations and late-night complaints. By the time you figured it out, the HOA already had their claws in. But I wasn't like my neighbors. I bought my land before they ever paved a cul-de-sac nearby. No legal obligation to join. County zoning code, black and white, said private industrial parcels were untouchable. Trouble wasn't the law. It was people willing to twist it. Things turned ugly that fall. One morning, I pulled in and saw the gate hanging open, padlock snapped. Whoever did it wasn't just trespassing. They were declaring war. Inside, crates were overturned, servers ripped from walls, nothing stolen, just destroyed. Red paint screamed, "Play by the rules." This was theater, a message. Cops showed up, gave it the kids being kids routine. I pointed at the cut locks and surgically targeted damage. Kids don't bypass motion sensors and take out servers, I snapped. The officer didn't flinch. "Look, Mr. Carter, unless you've got a suspect, there's not much else we can do. Maybe consider working with the community." There it was, the pitch, slid in like a knife. Play along, or keep suffering. For the first time in years, doubt crept in. Did Hale own the cops too? How deep did this rabbit hole go? But the doubt didn't last, replaced by that old steel. I called my team into the break room. They looked beat, windows boarded, nerves shot. Riley Park, my operations manager since the garage days, arms crossed. "They want us scared," I said. "But we weld steel, we rebuild. They kill cameras, we add drones." Riley didn't miss a beat. "Give me a list of every damaged system. Anyone thinking about quitting, remember, if they can do this to us, they can do it to anyone." Murmurs of agreement, defiance rising up. That night, I walked the perimeter alone, suburban rooftops glittering beyond the fence, every one of them paying tribute to Hale's empire. I promised myself I wouldn't just defend, I'd expose every rotten deal, every cop in their pocket. War on my terms. And war it became. Cameras that never failed started flickering. Footage glitched only when it mattered. "Someone's jamming the signal." One of my techs muttered, eyes on the blinking red lights. Then, tire tracks by the fence, heavy tread stopping just short of my gate, angled like a wolf sniffing the edge. It got worse. Driving past the Lakeview office, I spotted Hale flanked by board members and two city officials I recognized from zoning hearings. Slapping backs, passing papers, all of them laughing. Not volunteers, conspirators, but suspicions, not evidence. Then one Monday, the front gates wide open, padlock in pieces. Destruction worse than before, servers yanked, keyboards scattered, red paint. Obey the rules. I called the police. This time, a sergeant shrugged. Teenagers, maybe. Teenagers who bypass biometric locks? We'll file a report, but maybe think about working more closely with your community. There's the blade, again. My staff looked to me for answers. Riley, blunt as ever. They're not going to help us, Miles. They're covering for them. She was right. So we doubled the security budget, redundant servers, firewalls so thick the Pentagon would be jealous, biometric redundancy. But I knew even the strongest lock is useless if the enemy's already inside. Called in an outside expert, Noah Mercer, former federal consultant. He spent hours touring the property, then dropped the verdict I dreaded. This was professional, not kids. They knew exactly where to hit. His advice, you need leverage. Find out who's ordering the jobs and why. Defense alone would never be enough. The chance came sooner than I expected. Survey crews and city trucks mapping my fence line. Timing too perfect. County Planning Office stonewalled me for hours before a clerk let slip. Lakeview Association had filed a proposal buried in jargon about community enhancement. Legal warfare, not vandalism. Ava Lynn, my attorney, was pitbull mean with a resume of courtroom scalps. They're testing you, she said. If you let this rezoning through, it's restrictions, easements, your land, gone. We filed an objection, but she was clear. You need evidence. Something that ties them to the sabotage. Then they started hitting my supply chain. Deliveries blocked by men in fake city uniforms. Riley and I caught it on the cameras. 3 men, faces obscured, turning a supplier away. Noah's analysis? Private contractors, paid by the association, not city officials. Ava dug into the rezoning proposal. Buried was a clause giving the HOA the right to build a pedestrian pathway across my land. Trojan horse. Once they have one, they expand, regulate, control. We logged every incident, every inspector, every delivery, time-stamped and stored. Then, a break. Footage of a delivery truck, late night, a guy sneaking out, planting an eavesdropping array near my server room. Noah tracked the truck through traffic cams to a nondescript warehouse. No signage, just rust and security cameras. We watched, we documented. Turned out the warehouse was Guardian City Services, a private security outfit tied by payment ledgers back to the HOA. Ava moved fast. Preservation order, subpoenas for warehouse records, a restraining order to freeze the rezoning process. Soon, everything was on the table. Manifests matching gear deliveries to break-ins, consulting fees deposited into HOA treasuries, emails with lines like neutralize the target, no arrest necessary, disrupt supply. A prosecutor took the case, and suddenly, Hale's empire was under real scrutiny. The harassment escalated, more vandalism, break-ins, accounts frozen on anonymous complaints. I leaned on partners for credit, suppliers for patience. Every blow, we documented. Then, the final nail, server logs traced a hack attempt straight to Guardian City's network, timed to coincide with a city inspection. Ava bundled the evidence. Emails, bank records, surveillance footage, filed a lawsuit accusing the HOA of conspiracy, harassment, and malicious interference. Judge granted an injunction. HOA accounts frozen, rezoning dead, Guardian City under investigation. The courthouse was packed. Reporters swarmed. Hale's mask cracked as Ava laid out every thread. Vandalism, sabotage, financial trails, emails. When the footage played, him, in the warehouse, directing private security, there was nowhere left to hide. The judge's ruling was swift. Outside, cameras flashed, but I only said one thing. No one should have to fight this hard to keep what's theirs. That night, for the first time in months, I stood under the repaired floodlights, fence shining, yard quiet. We'd won, for now. But Ava warned me, these networks don't die easily. Noah expected retaliation. Unfamiliar cars started idling by, but the real victory was this. My employees walked with their heads high. Riley pinned the injunction to the break room wall like a trophy. and neighbors started speaking out. One old man shaking as he thanked me. They fined me $500 for a tricycle on the porch. I didn't think anyone could stand up to them, but you did. Even as Carter systems recovered, I knew the scars ran deeper than broken servers. This was about refusing to let anyone dictate how you live, own, or work on what's yours. Weeks later, Ava called. Hale indicted for embezzlement, fraud, wire transfers. The HOA sent me a letter of apology. I ripped it in half and focused on building forward. Looking back, not everyone could have fought this war. It takes resources, allies, stubbornness. But the lesson is, bullies, whether in uniforms, on boards, or holding a gavel, thrive on silence. They win when good people bend instead of fighting back. The real cost of independence is endurance, the willingness to take every hit and still say, "No, this is mine." And sometimes, when you refuse to bow, you inspire others to stand a little taller, too. So tell me, what battles have you fought in your own neighborhood, your own life? Drop a comment below, let's hear your stories, and maybe, just maybe, we'll stand a little taller together.